Hi, and welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight is the weekly True Crime and Show. I will be doing this one solo. Mr. Beckham is not able to join us tonight. I know, sad. Well, I'm actually kind of happy, but other than that, nonetheless, there's still a lot to talk about, so we will get into that shortly. Few housekeeping things, with next week being the week of Christmas for those that do celebrate. The schedule for the episodes that I'll do will be a little bit different in regards to what day. Honestly, it might just kind of be a last minute thing depending on my schedule as well. So soon as I kind of know that, I will keep you guys up to date, but I will try my best to do 2 live shows for you guys next week. We'll see. Another thing, a really exciting thing. So tomorrow, Friday, December 20th, I will be on the Once Upon a Crime podcast YouTube channel. It will be 11 a.m. Pacific time. So that's, I think, 2 p.m. Eastern. And there's going to be several content creators. And I'm really excited that Esther asked me to be a part of that. So I will be over there. If you can't catch it live, definitely tune into the replay. And I'm really excited for it because that will be my first one over on that channel. And it's wild because her podcast is an OG, and that's one I've listened to for years and years and years and years. So now to be asked to be over there, it's very interesting. It's hard to explain because I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of her and her work, but nonetheless, tune into that tomorrow if you guys are able to. All right. So tonight's show, I know that we usually always do these very interactive because there's a lot of opinions on a lot of cases. But tonight, I wanted to make it a little bit more so than usual. And I'll explain why when we get to those cases. For example, obviously everybody's talking about Luigi Mangione. And I think as the weeks gone on and we have learned more, a lot of people have opinions about it and they're expressing it, whether it's on, creators' own podcasts, YouTube channels, just even the news media, and always, in comments and things like that. But I wanted this to be a place where if you guys and girls have opinions on it, that you are certainly free to kind of say that in the chat as well as we talk about kind of what we've learned in the past couple of weeks since the shooting. With that being said, as you all know, this is a place where if you do have a different opinion than everybody else, that is fine. That is totally okay. So no bashing anybody if you're like, I don't agree with that, because especially this case, it's a very divided one. And I really want to hear what you guys think about this. So we won't start off with that. We won't get quite in so heavy for tonight's episode, but we will discuss it nonetheless. So before we get into that, let's see who's here. I see Beckham in the chat. Hey, Danny, there's a new villain in Oh, goodness. Beckham. I was going to lie and say that you weren't joining tonight because you couldn't find a candle to light. But since you now have a Mr. Beckham official candle, Really can't kind of get you for that one, but it's okay. Hey, Linda, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Paul from the Paulcast must be lost because here he is. Good to see you. And an even bigger hello to Minicast. So, Mini Paulcast. Hey, Renee. Hey, Tony. Let's see. Capone, good to see you. Hanukkah starts on Christmas night. Yes, I saw that. Yep, that is true. Congrats says a lot about how far you've come with your channel. Well, thank you, Renee. I really appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Interactive, let's dive on in. Let's see. What I've learned since the shooting is how awful people are supporting a murderer. That is certainly, we will certainly get into that, James. That in itself is a whole thing. And James, especially where you aren't from here, you're from Canada. So I'm very, very actually interested in what your opinion is because you're a bit removed from it. So I would just be very curious about that. I know, like, obviously I talk about all of these cases behind the scenes with like Beckham and Paul and of course the Liz, and it's very interesting. And let's be honest, when Paul chimes in, do we ever really care about what he says? Not really. But nonetheless, he definitely gives what I feel is a good perspective, especially on cases like this, because again, he's in Canada himself too. So he's a bit removed and can kind of see it from an outsider looking in type of perspective. So, but James, I'm really interested to kind of, as we dive into that, hear a bit more from you and kind of, and even what your media is saying too, because you're seeing what ours is, but if your media is talking about it, like what are they saying? We'll get into that. Danny, remember to mention Beckham, your merch line? You give the guy a shirt and a candle and he thinks he runs the world. What Beckham is referring to, and let me put up the banner for a minute, is if you haven't heard, long overdue and highly requested for, oh my gosh, years. And I'm just getting to it now. Danny After Dark has official merch, and me being the good friend that I am to Mr. Beckham thought, hey, let's do something with you. Let's do something for this. And now he is like the biggest ego ever. And I've created a monster and I don't know what to do. So like Beckham says, let's talk about his merch line for a minute. God, I don't know. But nonetheless, check out the store. There's some really great items. And yeah, if you do order something, that is incredible if you do. If you don't, that's all good too. Share the page. See if anybody else is interested in the show merch. Okay. The Mr. Beckham candle smells like citronella and given away t-shirts. Oh God, Paul, like you're bringing up like PTSD conversations right now that like I tried to get out of my head. Hey, Doe Like Beauty. Hope you're doing good. Seems like just a few years ago, people wouldn't have reacted this way. I agree with that. Yeah. We've all heard about that candle and how much that candle costs. And yeah, no, we're not. That type of candle's not on the Danny After Dark merch thing. Oh, let me take that down. All right, there we go. Beckham, you had your shout out. There you go. Hey, Chris James. Happy belated birthday. I know I was live yesterday on the day of your birthday. Hope you had a fantastic day and evening yesterday. And actually, you know what? It's Thursday now, soon to be Friday. Just carry it through the weekend, Chris James. Just go for it. Have a fantastic birthday weekend. Just keep doing you. The general consensus is it's funny to see people get mad because somebody shot at somebody they didn't agree with, Trump, and now they are cheering because somebody got shot that who they don't agree with. Yeah, that's a conversation me and Paul have had behind the scenes, and yeah, him pointing that out. Just depends on how many people agree with you to how right you are, I suppose. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I know that conversation when we dive into that and like the updates is going to be a bit long. So I just didn't want to start with that and kind of set the tone for that. But so let's start in on Which case? All right, there's an update this week in regards to Gilgo Beach Rex Heerman. So what we have heard is the suspect in the Gilgo Beach killings has now been charged with the murder of a seventh victim. So on Tuesday, it was announced that Rex Heerman was charged with second-degree murder in the killing of Valerie Mack. Her partial remains were found November 2000 on Long Island in New York. Valerie Mack was a 24-year-old Philadelphia mother and worked as an escort at the time of her disappearance. Part of Valerie's remains were first found in a wooded area of Minerville by a group of hunters with a dog. So the dog had alerted the hunters to a plastic bag that was wrapped in duct tape and filled with additional bags that were holding the human remains. Obviously, the hunters then called 911. In May 2020, prosecutors used a DNA sample from Valerie's remains and worked with local law enforcement, a genetic genealogist from the FBI, and the Suffolk County Crime Laboratory to determine the remains belonged to Valerie. Human hair was found on Valerie's left wrist, and that led prosecutors to the DNA profiles of guess who? Rex Heerman's wife and daughter, Asa Ellerup and Victoria Heerman. So 2 forensic laboratories have now confirmed that the hairs recovered on 6 of the 7 alleged victims are, quote, forensically tied, end quote, to Heerman or members of his immediate family or others that he lived with. During the initial investigation in Manorville in 2000, Valerie's head, hands, and right foot were not found at the scene and remained missing for approximately 11 more years. In April 2011, that's when Valerie's skull, hands, and right foot were discovered east of Gilgo Beach in Suffolk County. That's actually less than 1.5 miles east where the remains of Jessica Taylor were found. Jessica Taylor is also somebody that Rex Heerman is accused of killing. There were similarities between the cutting instruments used to dismember both Valerie and Jessica, as well as similarities between the garbage bags that contained their remains. So the judge scheduled the next hearing for January 15th, 2025. So, 7th victim. I am not surprised that he's been charged with another one. I'm sure as time, there's going to be more. I find it very hard to believe that he's been allegedly operating for all of this time and there's only 6, 7 victims. I think we're going to find more as time goes on, even before he stands trial. That's my opinion, at least. And when I did go to CrimeCon Orlando last year, that was where there was a panel that I sat in on, one of the discussions that was about the Gilgo Beach case. And that was absolutely fascinating because it was by one of the detectives who worked the case. So it was really great to kind of sit and hear that from, again, law enforcement who actually worked it. So let's see what you guys have to say about this in regards to an update on a 7th victim. Hey, K-Dog, welcome. Good to see you. Are you talking Klingon? Oh, okay. You guys are just in the chat. Because I'm like, wait, what? It took me a second to think what Klingon was, and then I realized. So, yeah. Hey, Kane, good to see you. Capone is saying we're thinking the wife was involved, right? She was home when a naked woman ran screaming out of their house, whatever happened there. Capone, I am with you on that one. With that being said, I'm not necessarily, hey, Kat, yes, we will be. And I typically never talk about it, but we're talking about it tonight. We are talking about it. So stay tuned. So yeah, Capone, in regards to, I think a lot of the time when there's crimes committed, especially to this magnitude, when someone's an alleged serial killer, a lot of times there's questions of how did the family not know? How did friends not know? How did coworkers, neighbors, community members, church members, so on and so forth? There's all these questions of how could you not have seen this? That stuff really makes me angry because it's kind of and I get it, society has a lot of anger when something like that happens, and you want to shift the blame maybe elsewhere or project it elsewhere, and kind of think in your head, well, if that was me and I was in that situation, I could have spot that. But if you watch the book review I did last night, you can't always do that. With that being said, so I know a lot of the times these alleged crimes committed by Rex Heuermann were when his wife and daughter were away. In regards to what you're saying, where one of the victims, Rex Heuermann, brought to his home, obviously was having, they were doing their, we'll find out more exactly what happened, but I think based on what we've heard, it's pretty obvious. And this woman ran from his home. We talked about this, oh my gosh, months ago on a True Crime and Chill when Beckham was here for that. And she ran from the house naked, screaming. And then she was ultimately missing as of later that night because he went out chasing after her. And the wife was home. That does not sit well with me. I mean, could Rex have said, oh, I chased her out and made up a story and she wanted to believe it because she wanted to believe her husband? Possibility. It's a possibility. But I'm sorry, if I'm in a home where somebody is running, screaming naked from my house and my significant other is chasing after them, and then she goes missing, I'm sorry, but there's going to be questions. There's going to be, there won't be a benefit of the doubt given in regards to, oh, well, that I don't understand that. And I don't think that the wife can say, I never heard it. I never saw it. It doesn't make sense. That one really doesn't make sense. And then there's also, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking her name, but it's somebody who has come forward to the media, and I can actually hear her interview because I've heard it for myself, where she went to the Heuermann household and survived. And one of the things she said was when she was brought there, it was under the guise of, the wife knew, she was involved in, these sexual going-ons, or was okay with her husband. I'm forgetting the exact quote she did, so don't hold me to it. But it was something like that. And she was very clear that, no, the wife knew what was going on. So sorry, I'm getting all into the case. But yeah, this one, it just really, I don't get it. That one thing doesn't sit with me. Again, let's say that was the only thing the wife experienced or heard or saw. Does that in her mind jump to, well, gee, my husband is now capable of all of the things he's being accused of? Not necessarily, but I think I personally want to hear more about that at trial, because it just doesn't sit right. It just doesn't sit right on the wife's part. But that's just me, and it sounds like you're thinking the same thing, Capone. Oh, we're getting into that later. We're getting into that. K-Dog, in some states, the spouse can know but doesn't have to divulge it. In some states, okay, so for example, in Rex Heuermann's case, depending on I don't know New Jersey law, so I don't hold me to that, but he can invoke, I'm blanking what it's called, but it's basically that his partner, his wife, cannot testify against him. So even if she wanted to, he's allowed to put, I think it's called spouse privilege or something like that, where even if she wanted to, he can stop that and say no, that can't happen. So again, I don't know if New Jersey has that law, but you're right. It's not necessarily even if she wants to, he just can say no. Yeah. Yep. Beckham, yes. You know what, Beckham, if you want to jump, I will post a link if you want to come on and talk about it. Other than that, peanut gallery you are. She's lying. Okay, Renee, in regards to Rex Heuermann's spouse, they will get something on her and she'll sing like a bird. She can if she's a co-defendant. Yes. Okay. Yes, you are right with that, Renee. I was still thinking more of in the perspective of where we are now with evidence and with charges, where she is not being charged with anything. In regards to the media, she is not even necessarily, and when I say media, being what law enforcement has told the media, she's not been accused of anything either. This is more so from what I'm just kind of seeing is kind of what we're all kind of thinking, like the court of public opinion. But I mean, there's something, again, that's just the one thing for me that just needs an explanation, because I don't understand. I just don't understand how someone, it's one thing if someone ran out of your house and you weren't aware, but someone running, screaming, nude, they go missing, your husband, it just, there's too much. There's way too much that it just doesn't add up. Capone thinks they won't charge her. Again, if they could offer her, they could very well offer her, if on the chance she does know more, could they offer immunity to her to get, to get more information? They could. There's so many angles this could go, but again, where she hasn't, that would then imply that she knew more and didn't come forward. It's so messy. It's so messy. And like I said, I don't think this is going to stop at 7 people that he's being alleged to kill. I think there's going to be more that's going to come. Renee saying there was some lawyer dude going after their daughter. Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, I really don't, like, my mind instantly goes to like Kerry Rawson, Dennis Rader's daughter, the BTK killer. And like, I'm just like, kids are off limits. I really feel kids are off limits. But again, could they, in this case, could the daughter have known anything? I don't know. Again, I don't like when the court of public opinion kind of instantly does the family should have known. I really don't like that. But if it does come out that the family in some shape or form was aware of something that, that could have been prevented, or something that he done where they didn't, if it does come out, then that's a little different, but we'll see. Renee saying she made art that was consistent with the crime scene. Right. Again, I know I'm really like playing devil's advocate here, because you're not wrong, but it's also, could have, I don't know. I get what you're saying though. I get what you're saying. Is this the family that had the super expensive collection of guns that they were going to sell? Yeah. Yep. I haven't seen her art, but is it? Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Heard about it, haven't seen it. Yeah, the wife is trying to get possession to like be able to sell it to get the profits from that. So yeah, that's kind of the update with that. I don't know. What do you guys think? And you can flat out say, Danny, you're wrong. I think it's going to stop at number 7. Or do you think, oh no, there's way more. There is more. It will come out. He will be charged with others, so on and so forth. It was more bondage torture. Yeah, I don't want to see it, but we will. I mean, it will definitely, it's already been released. I just haven't seen it. So let's see. Capone. Okay, K-Dog saying more. I am right there with you, K-Dog. 100%. BDSM people scare me. I'm so vanilla. Capone, we are here for you. I don't have an answer or a solution. Or vanilla is not bad either. But Capone, you are here with friends. You are in a safe space to share that BDSM people scare you. So thank you for being open about that. Chris James is saying more as well. Poor Capone. Oh God, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Kane says, I don't see what those people get out of that. I mean, Capone doesn't either. In fact, he's scared. Nobody's smacking the kid around. You know what I'm saying? All right. I'm going to choke because like I want to laugh so hard at these, but no, Capone, you have opened up. So I respect that. So I will keep you guys up to date in regards to the Gilgo Beach case, Rex Heuermann. If there's any more charges, when there's any more charges of any other victims, and what other information comes out. We'll keep you guys updated. So, oh gosh, which one to talk about next? I'll leave the two more interactive ones for the end. How about that? Because, yeah, I want it to be a bit more of an involved conversation. So the next case to talk about with you guys, this is one where we just got the verdict today. So Giselle Petitcott, and that is out of France. This has been a case that I have been following for so long, since everything broke. And it's in another country. Obviously, it's in France. So one of the things we have to kind of consider is the laws there are very different. Very, very different. This is one of those cases where when it wasn't until really the past few months, kind of as things were ramping up for trial, that like I just went fully down the rabbit hole in this, in like Friends, Beckham, Paul, the Liz. I was just like, here's this case. If you're not familiar with it, read about it, go down the rabbit hole. We need to talk about it. And yes, we are here to talk about it tonight. Hey, Tish, welcome. All right. I have my side page pulled up to give you a wrench. It's true to my word. So let's see. All right, there you go. And I want to just take a look at, is that your cat, Tish? That is, or is that just a random avatar picture? Either way, freaking adorable. Absolutely adorable. Renee, me too. I listened in English and French. Renee, you are too much. So I guess that, Renee, do you speak French or understand French? I only ask because had I listened to it, I wouldn't have understood a word. Would not have understood a word. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Tish, side note, everybody. So Tish, if you are not aware, we are a very, very animal friendly group here. Dare I say a little more than cat than dog, but I don't discriminate. I have 6 cats myself. I'm involved in feline rescue, have been it'll be at the one shelter, 11 years in February I've been there. So yeah, I'm lover of all animals. So yes, I love that. And I love your cat. And that's such a cute name, Griselda. That is so cute. So awesome. Danny, I love that lipstick shade. Is it Clinique? No, it is Smashbox. I'm blanking the color shade, but it is Smashbox, and it's like a dark plum color. It's actually darker than it's coming across on camera, but yep, Smashbox. They are an amazing brand for lipstick. I own a lot. So, but thank you. Glad you like it. Check it out. Yep, Smashbox. Let's see. We've got 3 1-year-olds now. 3? You adopted, or 3 1-year-olds? Whew. Oh gosh. So that's a lot of energy. That is a lot of energy. Good. Wow. Good luck to you. Oh my goodness. That's awesome. Beckham is not what your mind is going to. Smashbox is a makeup brand. So Beckham, before you start, yeah, if you go to Google it thinking you're going to find something really exciting, if you know what I mean, no, you're going to find a makeup brand. Sorry to disappoint. Oh God, no kidding. So, all right. I know I'm going off topic here. Let's see, just double check. I want to get up to date where I am with you guys before I dive into this case. French laws. You convict a child molester, come on and live here forever, not mentioning, oh God. James, no kidding. Capone says this was one of the worst cases that I've ever heard of, like death penalty bad. Okay, all right. Then that makes sense why you were able to listen to it in French as well. Oh man, no. I know, you guys are funny. Hey, Corey, nice intro. Oh my God, that's honestly, this is my favorite part of the night, Capone, that one comment that you did. I'm not going to star it because that's sad, but that's awesome. Didn't quite go that way. Hey, everybody. Hey, Sam Smith. All right, so let's talk about the case of Giselle Petitcott because some of you might not be aware. And again, the verdict just came down today. So is that the opposite of kink shaming? Good point. I don't know. So let's just move on. So again, this happened in France. So 51 men, 51 were all found guilty today in the drugging and rape trial of Giselle Petitcott. One of those men was her husband, Dominique. So Giselle, after the verdict was announced, stood outside the courthouse and made a statement. Quote, I want you to know that we share the same fight. And she also said, in regards to the campaigners that have been supporting her and rooting for her, she said, my profound gratitude towards the people who supported me. So Giselle is 72 years old. And one of the other things that she said is, your messages moved me deeply and they gave me the strength to come back every day and survive through these long daily hearings. This trial was a very difficult ordeal. So her now ex-husband, Dominique, and again, 50 other accomplices are now going to be facing sentences. But we'll get to what those sentences are in a minute because yeah, they're not all the same. And yeah, there's a lot to that, and we'll get to that. So in regards to Giselle coming forward, again, she could have stayed anonymous in this, but she chose to put herself out there and for all of these details to come out, which is, I can't even imagine, her 72, her friends, her community, her children, her grandchildren are all learning all of the details about what happened to her. And it's incredible, but nonetheless, I have so much just respect and admiration for Giselle. The strength that she has to do this is just incredible. And I can't say enough positive things about her through all of this. So what she said in regards to, for example, her grandchildren, her kids, in regards to hearing all of this, she said, it's also for them that I led this fight. I wanted all of society to be a witness to the debates that took place here. I never regretted making this decision. I have trust in our capacity to collectively project ourselves toward a future we all, women and men, can live in harmony with respect and mutual understanding. Thank you. So in regards to the sentences, so her now ex-husband, Dominique, 72 years old as well. The court sentenced him to 20 years in prison for drugging and raping her and allowing other men to rape her while she was unconscious, knocked out by tranquilizers that he hid in her food and drink beverages. So the 20 years is actually the maximum sentence under French law. He was found guilty on all charges. So again, 20 was the maximum. Being 72 years old, he won't be eligible to request early release until at least 2/3 of his sentence has been served. So it's very possible that he'll just die in prison. And am I mad at that? Not really. He's a piece of shit. Like, what he did is horrible. Horrible, horrible. So Dominique and the other 50 defendants each stood up, one after the other, as Chief Judge Roger, and I'm probably going to mispronounce the last name, Arata, read out the verdicts and then the sentences. And this took over an hour. So Giselle faced the defendants in the courtroom. She sometimes nodded her head as the verdicts for each of the men charged were being announced. So Beatrice, and I know I'm going to butcher the last name, Zavaro, Dominique's lawyer. So Giselle's now ex-husband. Like the statements that I'm about to read you guys, I was infuriated because it's like, on the one hand, I get it. You have a job to represent your client, even though he did horrific things. But let me read it. So again, Beatrice, Dominique's lawyer, said that she would consider an appeal, but also expressed hope that Giselle would find solace in the rulings. Quote, "I wanted Mrs. Pellicott to be able to emerge from these hearings in peace, and I think that the verdicts will contribute to this relief for Mrs. Pellicott," end quote. Really? You're saying that, she deserves peace. I hope she gets this out of this. But yeah, we're going to consider an appeal for her husband who drugged her, raped her, it was not just the 50 other men that he had raped her while she was unconscious. There was more. There was over, I think, 20 or 30 more that police just couldn't identify who they were. So they got off on this. They're not being charged. And through this, one of the things that we learned is that he didn't require the men to wear any form of condoms. It was up to the guy's choice. At multiple points that Giselle got STDs from this, and yet Dominique would blame her, being like, "Oh, well, you're having all these forgetful spells. How do I know that you didn't go out and, cheat on me or whatnot?" And it's like, you piece of shit for doing that to her. And there were men that Dominique knew were HIV positive. He didn't require them to wear condoms while they were raping his wife. Like, what the hell? So then to just hear his lawyer be like, "Oh, we hope she emerges from this with peace and she'll get some relief. But we're going to consider an appeal for Dominique." Like, oh my God, it makes me so mad. So mad. But we're not done. I can see you guys, your comments in the chat. We will certainly get to that. We will get to it. But let's go. Let's continue on. Of the 50 accused of rape, just one was acquitted, but he was instead found guilty of aggravated sexual assault. Another man was also found guilty on the sexual assault charge he was tried for. So in the end, this means in all ways that defendants were found guilty in one way or another. So prosecutors had asked that Dominique Pellicott get the maximum penalty of the 20-year sentences. And then they also requested sentences of 10 to 18 years for the others that tried to rape. So again, Dominique was given the maximum. They wanted 10 to 18 years for all of the other men who raped her. Didn't happen. So, and I'll explain why. So for the defendants other than Dominique, the sentences, they ranged from 3 years to 15 years in prison. And some of the men actually were free to go because of time suspended, basically meaning time served while you were being held waiting for trial. So some of them were just free to walk out. But minimum 3, maximum 15 for the other men. So in regards to the men who were free to go, that was 6 defendants. So Dominique, I see there's one question in here. How long ago did this happen? So this was over a period of time. So let me get into that. It's my next note, but I did see your question, Kat. So Dominique admitted that for years he drugged his wife, Giselle, of 50 years, and had strangers he recruited online that could abuse her and rape her while he filmed it. Again, that is how so many of these men were found and identified, is because Dominique liked to film it. The defendants were all accused, again, of having taken part in Dominique's rape and rape fantasies, abuse fantasies, and they basically did it in the couple's home. So one of the men that was sentenced to 12 years in prison was, get this, he wasn't sent to prison with a sentence for drugging and raping Giselle, but he was sentenced to 12 years for drugging and raping his own wife. And the drugs he got were from Dominique. And Dominique also raped this guy's wife. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck? So outside of the court, a large banner that had campaigners hung on the city wall, and it said, "Merci, Giselle." Thank you, Giselle. So there has been a lot of support for her. So to go back a step further to really, really answer your question about when Dominique first became on the police radar. So we're stepping way back now. He first came to the attention of police in September 2020 when a supermarket security guard caught him filming up women's skirts. Police then subsequently found his library. I hate to even use that word, library of homemade images that documented years, over 10 years of men raping his wife on these images. More than 20,000 photos and videos in all, stored on computer drives and categorized in folders. The folders were named, for example, abuse, her rapists, night alone, so on and so forth. There was so much evidence that led the police to the other defendants because, again, he filmed these guys. So in the videos, investigators counted 72 different abusers, but again, they weren't able to identify all of them. They were only able to identify 50 others besides besides Dominique. So, and then when this was happening, it had a huge impact in regards to the culture of rape and consent in France. It's very, very different. It wasn't even until, the last several years that, so for example, if a husband, let's just call it what it is, raped his wife, it wasn't considered even rape until relatively recently, because you're married, you're in a relationship, so it was not even considered rape until relatively recently, which blows my mind. But again, this is France, different country, different laws on this, and it goes into the way a lot of these other men try to, I hate to say defend themselves or argue against their charges in court. to narrow it down, because again, over 50 men, we could be here all night kind of discussing the nitty-gritty. But in the end, it talked about this big debate now in France about whether the country's legal definition of rape should expand to now include the mention of consent, which I'm sure as you guys are hearing this, you're thinking, well, wait a minute. If the person's not consenting, then that's rape. Not necessarily in French law. So a lot of the men that were found, again, they were found guilty, but before the verdict was announced today, many of them, even though there's video evidence of what they did, said what they did was not wrong. And it's not, were there some that were just saying that to try to get out of what they're being charged with? Absolutely. But there were some that were saying, no, what I did was fine, because some of the defendants argued that Dominique Pellicot's consent covered his wife too. So even though she's drugged and is not aware of what's happening, he's saying, go ahead and have sex with her. So to these men and to the culture of French law, that's consent. They're saying he gave consent, so that's consent for her too. Some sought to excuse their behavior by insisting that they hadn't intended to rape anyone, and they responded to that by Dominique, the husband's invitations to come to their home. Again, Dominique is inviting them to their home to have sex with his wife. So again, they're saying, no, that's consensual. I was invited to come do this. Some of them basically are saying that they were misled, and they thought that they were taking part of this, and this was some type of consensual kink, or we didn't know she was really knocked out. We didn't know that she wasn't aware of what's going on, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, that is one of the things that now has gotten worldwide attention in France because of Giselle. I just have so much admiration for Giselle. She's an amazing woman too. Again, she could have just kept her identity private in this, but no, she went full steam ahead. And there are so many now that are looking at French law. And I hope they get that changed so that the word consent, like, yes, you have to have consent. Like, it blows my mind that, yeah, that some of the men are arguing this. It's just, but that's French law. So they're going down swinging, or maybe they really do believe that husband said it was fine. He said it was fine. So therefore it is almost like Giselle is Dominique's property. Like, that's what it is. It's not a human being. That's his property. He's giving the okay for me to have sex and rape his property. So nope, it's fine. It's fine. That's it. Mind-blowing. So I just did a lot of talking on this. So let me go back in the chat. And again, what do you guys think about this? Have you been following this case? Is this something you're just relatively new to? What are your thoughts? Because again, I know that a lot of you guys are from different countries, some in the US, like, James Watson over in Canada. So I really would like to get as many perspectives as possible on this and just see where everybody's mind is at. So oh, my drink? No, it is not a large glass of vodka, I assure you. It's a work night. Renee is saying they slut shamed her in court. They did. And that was just fucked. It's just like, I know a defense attorney has a job to do. I get that. But like, how do you... And not all defense attorneys are like that. So I'm not making a full blanket statement, for the record. I am not bashing, because there are some amazing, like Bob Motta, for example, amazing defense attorney, huge fan of him and his work and his podcast, The Defense Diaries. But there are some defense attorneys that it's just one of those, like, you're going to go home. You are going to argue what you're going to argue and go home and close your eyes at night and get a peaceful night's sleep. How? Renee saying my husband wouldn't even make it to court if he did that to me. I'm right. 100%. Kat saying mine either. France want to project a progressive agenda with Macron, but the sexual crimes are bad there. Oh my gosh, Renee, absolutely. Totally. Danny, why are these? Beckham's on another planet, I swear. Why are all these drones flying? Yeah. There was it Beckham or Paul? I don't. We have a group chat, and I forget who says what. But yeah, that there were all these drones flying in Boston, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Beckham actually. That I was wondering what the heck that is. Beckham, I don't know. He was also showing men how to do it to others. Yes, Renee, and even let me just pull it up. Yeah, there was that one man. Yeah, sentenced to 12 years in prison because he was drugging and raping his own wife that Dominique was giving him the drugs to do. And then Dominique raped her too. Like, wild. I know, that's scary. Renee, that is scary because especially where French law is right now, there are still those, like, I hate to say loopholes that somebody could get away with that because of that word consent. It's scary. It is so scary. Renee, yeah, he's admired there. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Did they have any children? Kane, yes. So Giselle and Dominique did have kids as well as grandchildren. So the house that a lot of these or these really began, it was considered their kind of Giselle and Dominique's retirement home, if you will. They had moved away from family. And when I say away, meaning like not necessarily another country or even another state, but far enough away where Dominique could kind of put this in motion. And they knew, leading up to this. So Giselle was having health problems. She was forgetting a lot of things. Like she would have almost blackouts very frequently and lose just lapse of time. She was having some physical side effects. And what we know now is because he was drugging her. And when he was drugging her, it was because these men would be coming over to rape her. Because Giselle would go to the hospital, have all these tests done, and everything came back normal. So she withdrew more and more. She stopped driving because she would have these blackouts and not know where she was or how did I get here, so on and so forth. So he's creating this situation that he's now like taking care of her because of this. She's withdrawing more and more because, she's going through this thing, I'm being forgetful, but I'm testing positive for these STDs, but I can't remember where I was or what happened. And then he said, you must have done this. You must have cheated on me because you can't remember. Blaming her. There was one example that we learned about, and I'm sure there's more. Just the one sticks out in my mind, Kane, that the family was over for, I can't remember, it was a holiday or some type of an event, but all the family was there. And Giselle went into one of her episodes, if you will, where she basically started to, I'm blanking the words that was used, and it was spot on, but it was, she basically kind of became a little bit unconscious and whatnot. And do you know what it was because he drugged her for men to come over that night and rape her, but the meds kicked in, or drugs kicked in sooner than he anticipated, which is horrible. So it's horrible. It's horrible. What not only he put his wife through, their children's children all know this now. One of his kids, their son married a woman, and I can't remember what the exact kind of documentation came out on it, but there was some talk about that Dominique had filmed his son's wife without her consent. I don't know if that was ever proven or not. That just it went to kind of the back of my mind because I was just so focused on Giselle and her case. But yeah, he destroyed everything. Everything. And it's just horrible. She tested positive for 4 different STDs. Because again, he didn't require the men to wear condoms. And there were men that he knew were HIV positive, and he still let them rape his wife and not use condoms. Yeah. And then he would blame her when she tested positive. Like, what an asshole. All right, I know I just jumped ahead in the comments, so let's get back. So I want to hear what you guys are all saying about this. I mean, that's what it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is horrific. This is horrific. Yeah, Chris James. Yeah, there's not even words. Like, your family is supposed to be your safe space. Like, at the end of the day, and when I say family, I mean your spouse, significant other, your parents, sister, brother. In my case, my Auntie Mimi, your children, the world is full of such horrible things and horrible people that your family is supposed to be your safe space. The person you marry is supposed to be your safe space. And look what he was doing. It's just inconceivable that she had to endure that. Like, unbelievable. That's a lot of money for roofies. Yeah, I don't know. I can't even imagine how much he spent on all this drugs for this. I mean, this was over 10 years he was doing this. And it wasn't just, let me clarify too, just to go off of that, K-Dog, it wasn't just 72 men one time. Like, no, there were men multiple. We found this out a while ago too. There was it like 1 or 2 men that came over, saw Giselle, and basically like, no, I want no part in this, and left. Didn't go to the police. But I remember hearing of at least one to 2 that walked away from the situation. But again, like, didn't call the police. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, sorry, I'm behind in the chat. Yeah, I did talk about that. Yeah. Thank you, Capone, for posting that. See, that's why I give wrenches, is for stuff like this, because that now you guys have the ability to share any type of articles or whatnot. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. I think now that, and I hate to even use the term that like the dust has settled, because no, Giselle is going to, like, just because the trial's over doesn't mean like, all right, I'm done. Like, no. She's going to spend the rest of her life healing from this. But I think now this gives the opportunity for other family members to, yeah, I would not be surprised if there was more that comes out. Wouldn't be surprised. I don't know in regards to when she would go to the hospital, what they were looking for. I'm thinking they more so just focused on her brain, because if she's having these, okay, so she's 72 now. This has been happening for like 10, well, now that the trial happens, a little over 10 years. Yes, early 60s would be kind of young to kind of go with a, for example, dementia or Alzheimer's diagnosis. But nonetheless, like, if someone's having, like, that's where, I feel like a lot of people's minds would go to, like, oh, she must be having this or some type of thing with her brain. And they were all clear. And again, like, So she gave up so much of her life and her freedom and, stopped driving and all of that because of these lapses in time. She would just black out. And he's there taking care of her. So clearly he's here bringing her to these appointments, knowing full and goddamn well what he was doing. Like, that's a whole nother level of fucked up. Because, like, you would expect him to be like, no, 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 you're fine. You're fine. We don't need to go to the hospital. We don't need to go to the doctor. No, there he is bringing her. Like, knowing what he's doing. Like, crazy. This guy's horrible. Horrible. Like, any apology that comes from him is a load of shit, because you're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. Like, no, like, this wasn't a one-time thing. This was over 10 years. Like, after, even if he did it just once, that's horrible. But like, after every single one, he could have stopped and been like, no, this is wrong. But no, kept going, kept going. He had no intentions of stopping. None. He just so happened to get caught, taking a picture of somebody under their skirt at a supermarket. And then that led into, something bigger than the police envisioned. But he had no intention of stopping. So to say he's sorry, no, you're not. You're sorry for yourself. 20 years. That's the maximum under French law. And the other men, again, the 50 other men sentenced between 3 to 15 years. And this went on for 10 years and the wife didn't realize it. No, she had no clue, because he was drugging her. She had no idea. The way she found out, just briefly to get into that, is when law enforcement spoke to her and were kind of asking her these questions about, like, how did you wake up today? How are you feeling? And this and this. And then showed her a picture of her clearly naked in bed, having, lying there while a man is having sex with her. She doesn't know who the guy is. That's her in the bed. She's unconscious, and that's her bedroom. And then another photo. And then the police show her another photo and another. And she had no clue. No clue. That is scary. That is just so scary. So scary. So that is the update. And again, this verdict just came in today. Again, his attorney, so Dominique's attorney, are they going to file an appeal? Probably. But it's just, that comment from the attorney. Oh my God, it makes me so mad. So if and when, Dominique's attorney files for an appeal and all of that, I will keep you guys up to date on it. But unbelievable. I don't know the breakdown of when this would happen, whether it would happen in, like you said, once a month, twice a year, or kind of a lot at once and then spread out with no activity. I don't know. That I don't know. But good question. All right. So 2 more cases to talk about with you guys. We'll leave Luigi Mangione for last, because I think that might be the longest one. Let's see. So she was repeatedly drugged with powerful substances, and she didn't realize that either. No, and neither did her family when they came and visit and actually saw this, saw one of the drugs take effect. No, nope. But again, Sam Smith, she went to the hospital numerous times for all this testing, and they couldn't find anything. Everything came back normal. So to say she didn't realize that, she knew something was happening and she was blacking out. And again, there's her husband. Oh, fine, let's go to the hospital and get you tested, knowing what he was doing. All right. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. So yeah, Sam Smith, this is one of those cases that I'm just giving you guys a little bit of all right, take a shot in a nutshell. But there's a lot of research with this. You could go down and kind of look into that if this case has interest to you. And there's a lot of many facets here. So I predict that in 5 years, all convictions will be overturned based on new evidence. What new evidence? Sam, what new evidence? I'm not sure. Lord knows that, oh my gosh, there'd be an uproar, but nonetheless crazy. When it comes to court stuff, like sentences and charges and convictions, like nothing surprises me anymore. Like I know, I can't help it. It's just nothing surprises me. You think you're like, all right, slam dunk, let's move on. Nope, nothing surprises me anymore. So as much as like I read that and I'm like, oh, Sam, you're wrong. Who the hell knows? Richard Allen gets sentenced tomorrow. I know. Since I won't be live tomorrow, I'll do like a update on like the Danny After Dark Instagram account or something like that. So yeah, follow that. Tish is saying that's the danger of letting men take care of you. But you're right. But then there's this is your spouse. This is the man you married. You've been together for 50 years. Like 50 years. Like this isn't just like a new boyfriend that you have a family, you have kids together, you have grandchildren. Like, so I get what you're saying, but it's one of those like, who wouldn't let their spouse of 50 years take care of them as you're getting older and having health difficulties? And they're right there bringing you to the hospital and trying to get answers. Like, it's just fucked. The whole thing's just fucked. But okay, all right. So I'm blanking who. Oh, it was Kat. Kat came in and said, are we going to be talking about the shooting in Madison, Wisconsin? Yes, we are. And let me explain why, because you all know I never cover mass or school shootings on this. So the reason I wanted to talk about it is because the shooter is a 15-year-old girl. And that is statistically extremely rare. So let me run through everything and then I'll give you guys like my 2 cents on it. And yeah, we'll discuss. So Natalie, and I know I'm going to butcher her last name. I've heard it pronounced different on different news outlets. So I'm just going to say Natalie Rupno. So the shooting in Madison, Wisconsin was at the Abundant Life Christian School. 2 people were killed, a teacher and a student. There were 5 other students and another teacher who were injured. 2 of the wounded students remained in critical care with life-threatening injuries. So the shooter at the school, we found out, was a 15-year-old girl, Natalie. So she was found dead at the scene as well. It is believed that she died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, let's step back. At 10:57 a.m., Madison, Wisconsin Police Department responded to a call about a shooting at the Abundant Life Christian School at 4901 East Buckeye Road. The caller was a 2nd grade teacher who was reported the shooting. The shooting took place inside of a classroom, and that classroom had students from various grade levels inside of it. What we're being told is, quote, what we do know is that this child was obviously troubled. There's usually some type of warning signs that we all may have missed. And so we have to understand that we have to come together as a community. We have to wrap our arms around our children and understand what's going on in their lives, end quote. When police officers found Natalie, no shots were fired. She had already shot herself and was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital. Police said she used a 9mm pistol. Police are working to trace the gun, and police are also working with the FBI in regards to this. Quote, we'll spend a lot of time going through some items that we took from her house as a result of the search. We'll look through her social media, talk to some of her friends, and really try to piece together how a 15-year-old was able to do something like this in such a short amount of time, end quote. The shooter's family is cooperating with police. So again, statistically speaking, female shooters in cases like this are extremely, extremely rare. So when I was talking to Beckham, Paul, and Liz about this in our group chat, I was saying that the last school shooter that was female that I'm aware of was Brenda Spencer, and that was in 1979. Again, so that is a long time ago. And let me get into some statistics since since that to kind of put things into perspective of how rare this is. So an FBI review of active shooter incidents from 2000 to 2019 found that of the 345 total perpetrators, 332 were men and just 13 were women. Again, these were not all school shootings, but active shooter incidents. A Justice Department report stated that 97.7% of perpetrators of mass shootings from 1966 to 2019 were male. 97.7%. So police have still not released what the motive was or if specific people in the school were targeted. I know one of the interviews that I heard with law enforcement, when the question was asked if there were specific people that the shooter was targeting, the law enforcement officer kind of just in my opinion, brushed it aside and said, everybody in that school was a target. And I get he's absolutely right. However, it would be interesting to know if there, like, was this a targeting of a specific person and everybody else were just, I hate to say collateral, because sometimes we see that. Sometimes a school shooter is targeting certain people and then everybody else in that area just happens to be in that area. Yes, Brenda Spencer, I Don't Like Mondays. Yeah, by the Boomtown Rats, which, side note, Boomtown Rats are one of my favorite bands. But yeah, and I actually have a good book on Brenda Spencer that I read and I've been meaning to review for like over a year and I just haven't. But let's get back to it. Yeah, but that's who I'm referencing. 1979, Brenda Spencer, last female school shooter that I'm aware of. So again, just very rare. So what we've now learned later this week is that Natalie had a troubled home life. Her parents divorced and remarried each other several times. The father did say that his daughter had 2 handguns, but he does not know how she was able to get the gun that she used in the shooting. And he declined to say who purchased those guns. So Natalie, one of the things that I was reading about today, Natalie has also been in contact, or she had been in contact with a California guy, someone who was 20 years old, who was planning to attack a government building. A California judge has since issued a restraining order against this guy under the red flag laws, and he must turn in his guns and ammunition to police within 48 hours because he poses an imminent danger to himself and others. He has been cooperating with the FBI in regards to saying that he had been messaging with Natalie about attacking a government building with guns and explosives. So in regards to what we just went over, again, she shot herself, so we don't know much. And it kind of sounds like, from what I'm hearing from law enforcement, they're still kind of looking for what the heck was the motive. So there has been a photo that's been released where she is like, phone selfie style picture, and she's wearing one of the exact same t-shirts as one of the Columbine killers. And I found that photo very interesting from a different, I think, perspective. What I'm thinking is one of 2 ways. Was this a photo that she recently took and posted? Because if so, that's kind of telling in regards to, you hear a term called leakage in regards to when somebody makes comments or lets information. When I say lets information slip, a lot of times it's intentional. They'll just kind of give a little bit, about what they're planning to do and then maybe pull back. Or so if someone says, wait a minute, are you serious? Oh, no, I was just joking. But there's a lot with that. But a good podcast to listen to about that is Stop the Killing. And they talk about that all the time in regards to shootings, in regards to leakage, where the shooter kind of gave information before that. Again, if people had addressed and said, wow, that type of comment is kind of scary, and went to law enforcement, could things have been prevented? Who knows? But anyway, so I'm thinking that with the photo that she took, the selfie that she took of her in the Columbine, basically wearing the same Columbine killers shirt, if that was something, again, a recent picture, is that considered, that she's kind of putting that out there? If this was a picture that wasn't so recent, is that something where we're going to find more information in regards to had she been looking up the Columbine killers for some time? Was she admiring them in other ways? So on and so forth. Because taking a selfie like that isn't accidental. And when you post it, think of the message that you're putting out there. And she knew what message she was putting out there. And now it's just up to law enforcement to take every little piece of the puzzle and try to make some sense. So I don't know. I don't know. Based on as much as I was updating myself on it today, I don't know if law enforcement will find an exact motive in why she did what she did. I hope so. So that there's some type of answers for the community and the families every kid and teacher in that school is a victim of it. They're a complete and total victim. Their lives will never be the same. Even if they weren't, harmed in this, they lived through it. So they're all victims in this, and any type of answers that they can get on this, just because I don't want to say closure, there's no closure. They're going to be living with PTSD for a really long time, every single one of them. But just something, or maybe they just, like, we went through it. We don't care what her reasons were. We went through what she put us through. I don't know. All right, I just talked a whole bunch at you guys. I want to see what you guys are saying about this, because again, I don't talk about these things, but when I heard it was a 15-year-old girl, I was like, what the hell? And one of the things I was saying to Beckham, Paul, and Liz is that I am so fearful now that this will open the door for more young female shooters, whether it's female mass shooters, female school shooters, because one of the things we always hear about with so many crimes is copycat crimes, copycat killings or whatnot. And, you get somebody who's just, clearly very mentally unwell, and it's something that they've wanted to do. And now they see somebody else did it. And it's one of those, wow, if they can do it, I can do it too. And they just needed that little push to now commit a similar crime themselves. So that is really my fear, that that's going to happen. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. All right, so let me see where you guys are in the chat. So I want to see what you guys are saying about this. Kane is saying, I was very surprised it was a girl. Capone saying, this girl was a Columbine fangirl to the point where yeah, absolutely, Capone. Thank you. I know I'm a bit behind in the chat, but you're right. There was another good one at the scene. Why? Because not in this case. She was the only one. Tennessee had a girl shooter. No. When was that, Renee? Okay, I stand corrected. I stand corrected. But again, still, statistically speaking, very, very rare. But thank you, Renee. I stand corrected. Okay. Okay. Even though she identified as male. Okay. That case, yes. Yes. See, and that's one where, depending on what way you look at it, some might say one thing or another. But in Pennsylvania in the 1980s, there was a woman shooter at a mall. I'm thinking her name was Sylvia Seacrest. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Female mass shooters too, like that. Just Sam Smith, there was a female mass shooter at a post office in Santa Barbara in the 90s. Did not know that. Composer, I did not know this. Now I gotta know, is there another rabbit hole? Am I in danger? Oh, there was. Oh my gosh, I totally misread that as Capone was there during. And I was like, wait, what? Capone never told me this. Oh boy, it's been a long day, folks. It's been a long day. Okay, just working my way through. I know some of you guys are talking within the chat here. Yeah. Okay. Kat says, I was in high school when Brenda Spencer decided Monday sucked, and some of us wonder about a few kids in our school. Oh gosh. Yeah, because that was rare at its time. In 79, absolutely. Absolutely. Kane, that's the $1 million question. I don't know. Again, I've said it so many times. The Stop the Killing podcast with Kate Schweit and Sarah Ferris. Amazing. Kate Schweit was the head, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to butcher her title, head of the FBI active shooter program. I'm a big fan of their podcast. They do great episodes on this. What are they now in, like season 5 or 6 or something like that? I've met Sarah Ferris at the crime cons that I go to. Very lovely, very nice. Oh my gosh, big fan of their work. It's such a good podcast, and that's one of the things they talk about is this. And yeah, Kate Schweit was put in charge of that after the Sandy Hook attack and shooting. But how can this be prevented? There's a lot at play there. There's a lot at play because think about it. This is very common in the States. It's not like that in other countries. What we go through is in other countries, it doesn't happen like that. It's so rare that something happens. And if so, it's on a very small level compared to what happens here. So something to be said for that too. They still haven't released the full manifesto from the Nashville shooter, even after a year. Interesting that Luigi's manifesto was released right away. Good point, James Watson. Very good. That's an excellent point, actually. Sam Smith feels she was just another dumb, confused kid who didn't realize what she was getting into. There is never a realistic motive cited in all these random rage mass shooting events. I agree with you on that, Sam Smith. My only, I think, comment back or kind of caveat back at you is in their mind, the decision that why they're doing this might make sense. And it's more so we want to hear, we as a society, community, whatnot, want to know why this person did what they did. Like for Brenda Spencer, I don't like Mondays, which is like, again, is that a realistic reason why? No, but if that was the reason, it's like, okay, then we need to hear that was her reason why. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would just be curious as to why she thought this, like, here is the problem. This is the solution. Like, what did she think the problem was? Like, in her mind, of course, we all look at it and think, you did what over that? But I would just be curious what in her mind the problem was. We might never know. We might never know. Teenage girls are so unhinged. I'm surprised they don't do more crime. I mean, not just teenage girls. I mean, there's just like looking back and thinking back to when you're a teenager, emotions and like are just rampant. And you don't like, I think back in high school, like your community's so small. Like, I mean, and when I was in high school, like social media is very different now. We didn't have Facebook and MySpace and all that. That wasn't until just after I graduated high school. But it was one of those like all the people after high school, whether you like them or don't, whether they make your life miserable or not, like you see them every single day. And it's one of those like to think like I have to get till I'm 18, 19, whatever, and then go off to college and realize, oh wow, things are different. Like the world it's bigger than high school. Not all high schoolers realize that. Again, social media is different now, so I can't speak to that end, but I don't know. That's the only kind of thing I'm thinking based on that. Isn't the stats stating teenage girls are more violent now? Not that I have read from the statistics that I gave. I mean, will they be changing? Yes, but it's still in regards to mass shootings and school shootings, statistically very rare for it to be a female. In regards to other violent attacks, that's a different story. That's a different story. The girls are going to start commanding a presence with these shootings. I think it's opening the door. I think it's just opening the door, and that's scary. Capone, I was friends with a girl who was in the math class with the Columbine kids. That happened my freshman year. Oh my God, Capone. That I can't even imagine. I would love to, if you have any, what's the word I'm looking for? Like any recollection of conversations you've had with that friend of yours, of them kind of going back to that, or maybe they don't want to talk, like they haven't talked about it. I'm just curious, like and I'm not asking that you type it in the chat here. Just if you did want to send me over a message and, just say, oh yeah, here's what my friend, relayed to me or said. And you don't have to either. You totally don't have to either. One of my, I can't remember if I've talked about this with you guys here, but I know I've talked about it kind of off camera with some people. So one of my friends from dance, her, oh gosh, very, very close friend was one of the victims that was shot and killed at Virginia Tech. And when me and said dance friend met, it had already happened years before. Me and her connected on many levels, one being loss of like best friends, because I had a best friend who passed away from another reason, and she had that. And so we just kind of clicked and were able to kind of share and have, even though it was, again, the circumstances were very different, just kind of have that. But with that being said, it's just, she was, said friend is, very open in regards to what happened that day from her perspective of like, here's what I went through. It's just, it's so hard to put into words. And I just like every time there's like another school shooting or whatnot, it's just one of those, I always make it a point to kind of message her and just check in. And it's because it's just like PTSD. It just brings it back up. And I'm not saying, that's her words verbatim, but it just brings it back up to the surface. And every Virginia Tech anniversary, she always does like these posts, like beautiful posts on social media for her friend who passed away. Because again, he was one of the victims in it. And it's just heartbreaking because it's like, this happened so long ago for her, and we're still in the same place that we are. Again, as kind of Kane said earlier, what's the answer? What's the solution? I don't have that answer, but those who are in charge of it, it's just, we're still at square one because it's still happening. And it's just horrific. And I've not been through that. had a loved one that's been in that position, but so the closest I have is my dance friend who, again, lost someone very close to her best friend because of it. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. James is saying, I was sick that one of the media outlets called the national shooter a female, then apologized to him for their insensitive error. Little kids died and you're worried about the dead shooter in offending her. I mean, that is one way that the media kind of looked at this. It's, if you don't have a motive, you haven't solved the crime. Right. And I guess my thing, Sam, is, oh my gosh, I hate to sound like so old. Kids today, like, she had a social media presence. She had, posts that law enforcement will be able to go back. Is there going to be something where she flat out typed, here is my reason for doing this? No, because if she did, they would have already done. We would know that by now. But with kids now posting their whole life and everything on social media, as much as it's like, to me, just a bad thing, it will make law enforcement's job a little easier if there's like a breadcrumb of posts of a trail that they can follow to kind of piece these things together and be like, all right, we can see where her mind was going with this, or we can see how, for example, I'm just making this up until 13 years old, she was, just like every other kid, but now we're seeing something happen and her posts start to take a different turn or whatnot. Law enforcement will be able to see that. And again, I don't know if it will have the aha, we found the one post or the one message she sent to someone and this is the reason. I don't know. I think a lot more information might lie with this 20-year-old guy from California that she was messaging. He wanted to bomb a building, and I wonder if they can pull their messages and if she said the reason why she wanted to do what she was going to do. I don't know. I personally think a lot might fall with him, but we'll see. I could be wrong. I don't know. Girls don't do many mass shootings. They usually do swarming against their enemies. I mentioned it before. I was in class with two brothers in grade 11 who axed their mother and father and younger brother and sister to death for no reason. That's horrible. That is absolutely horrible. Yeah, there was so many. When I was younger, was it middle school? I can't remember. There was a teacher. I never had this teacher, but there was somebody, it was like a student murdered a teacher over break or like over winter break or something like that. Again, not my school, not my community, but it was something like that. And it was just shocking. And in regards to why, I don't remember that there was a why. I could totally be wrong because that was so long ago. But I just remember, everybody in every school community in the area talking about it because it was big news. It was, here's this kid. I believe he was a little older than I was too, that murdered his mom, who was a teacher. So it was crazy. And why? Okay. Beckham with the drones. All right. Y'all can talk about the drones with Beckham. I'm not. All right. Yeah. So ordinarily, again, I don't talk about these things, but I've opened that door. So in regards to any updates on this case, we'll keep y'all posted on it. So yeah, stay tuned for that. If there is a motive and that gets released, I'll update you guys on that. So the last case of the night that we're talking about, Luigi Mangione. And again, this is one where there's such a divide on social media in regards to, people saying he murdered someone, regardless of the reason, it's wrong. And then there's so many people that are hailing him a hero for what he did and for bringing attention to, the United States healthcare system and all the denials that people go through with their health insurance companies, so on and so forth. So by all means, safe space. If you want to give your opinions on this, please feel free to do so in the chat. Again, we all might think differently on it. That doesn't mean we attack each other on it. So if you want to give your opinion, more than welcome to in here. So in regards to updates for Luigi Mangione, so what we have learned this week is he was indicted on first-degree murder and other charges in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The indictment on first-degree murder is furtherance of terrorism. It elevates the case against Luigi. So the New York State Supreme Court indicted charges for Luigi with 2 counts of second-degree murder, one of which is charged as a killing in the act of terrorism, 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 4 counts of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 1 count of fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of second-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument. A lot of charges being there, but again, killing in the act of terrorism is key. So one of the things that law enforcement has said is that this was frightening, well-planned, a targeted murder that intended to cause shock and attention and intimidation. It occurred in one of the busiest parts of their city, threatened the safety of local residents, tourists, business people, commuters. New York is a very busy place. And this was in the middle of all that, just as people were beginning their day. So the terrorism charges were added and warranted because the slaying, quote, was intended to evoke terror, end quote. A United Healthcare Group spokesperson said the indictment was, quote, an important step forward for seeking justice in the murder of our colleague, Brian Thompson. We will work with law enforcement authorities to help bring closure for Brian's family, friends, and colleagues. So it wasn't until just recently that Luigi agreed to extradition to New York from Pennsylvania. He had been fighting extradition, but was just extradited. And that's one of the things that Beckham mentioned earlier is that, where he's being held in New York. So Pennsylvania authorities are kind of putting aside their charges and bringing him to court and kind of putting that on hold while New York prosecutes Luigi for the crimes committed in New York. So again, Pennsylvania will be after the New York trials. So Luigi's Pennsylvania attorney, Thomas Dickey, said he would plead not guilty in the New York and Pennsylvania cases. Karen Friedman, and I'm totally going to butcher her last name, Agnifilo, has been retained to represent Luigi in regards to the New York charges. So before the shooting, Luigi had been missing for months. His family filed a missing persons report in mid-November in San Francisco. And according to the missing persons flyer, his mother said she last spoke to him on July 1st. Neither Luigi or his parents were insured with United Healthcare. I know that has been a big question of, was he denied some type of coverage there or whatnot? Neither him or his family were insured by them. So law enforcement is saying that the company may have been targeted because of its size. And one of the other things that has been a big focus about Luigi is kind of the contradictions in his lifestyle. So in regards to his manifesto and any comments that he's given to the media, and when I say media, in regards to as he's being taken into a building, him shouting and saying, whatnot. It's one of those, he came from privilege. He came from money. This is one of the things me and Beckham talked about last week was, he wasn't in a position where money was an issue in regards to his health care. Not to say that anybody, if you have health care that you've purchased that you have to pay for, some states it's required, like Massachusetts, it is required. If you do not have health insurance, you get dinged on your taxes big time. So to have health care and then have it denied, which we've all been there where things have been denied, and that makes tough choices for families, because what are you going to do if you can't afford it out of pocket? But he could. And him saying, there's posts that he's done on his Twitter where there was one image of like his back in regards to his spine and the back injury, or I'm not sure the right word is, but he did have surgery to correct it, where he said he can't have sex because of it. But yet we see what he was able to kind of physically do in regard to the shooting and taking the bike and then leaving the scene. It's very interesting how he's now, like, things that he's referencing. It's like, well, wait a minute, you're kind of a contradiction to what you're saying you're fighting in some of the points, not all. But then he's also, on the flip side, being hailed for, being looked at almost like a Robin Hood figure. I've heard that term on so many other podcasts and other YouTube creators of true crime, where he's being kind of compared to that. But at the same, he didn't take from, he killed somebody. He committed murder at the end of the day. But then there's the conversation of, but he's opening the door for this conversation of, people aren't going to put up with this bullshit of what healthcare has been doing, denying all of these people. And oh God, who was I messaging with today? I think it was an old coworker about this case in regards to, when I was saying, like, I don't know how he's going to have a fair trial for me, because, and we talked about this last week. And Renee, I remember you saying specifically that, one of the questions could be, who here has had, health issues with health insurance denying them for stuff. Everybody has, but Renee made the point of, but the judge, would say, like, but can you put that basically aside and be able to, be a juror on this case and be fair. With that being said, I see both sides to it. I feel like there might be people that want to get on this jury for the wrong reasons, whether you're for what he did or against what he did. But for me, more so, what makes me nervous is there's such a big movement for Luigi Mangione in regards to thinking what he did was absolutely the right thing to do, and he's a hero for what he did. We've seen in other cases where the media, communities, the public do not agree with a jury's verdict. And now that jury gets, like, their lives gets threatened over what they did. There's a few cases that there's been example of, but one of them was Casey Anthony. People were so outraged that a jury found her not guilty that they were threatened. So I feel like this is almost going to be worse, because it's on a deeper scale that affects so many people. On the one hand, even if someone thinks I can be impartial and do the right thing, are they going to want to be on this trial? I know sometimes you don't have a choice if you're picked for jury duty or not, if a judge puts you on, but they might be afraid to say, I think he's guilty, because, there's so many people that might come after them because they think what he did was the right thing. I don't know. I think it's going to be a hard sell for him to have a fair trial. I really do. I really, really do. The whole glorifying him in regards to him being kind of like this new sex symbol. Again, that's one of the things that we talked about last week with Beckham, right? Where he's like the new it guy. You know, there was Scott Peterson, there was Chris Watts, and now it's Luigi Mangione. And it's everywhere. Everywhere. It's interesting. It's just interesting that like that's such a focus in this. And it's one of those, all right, let's put that to the side. Let's say he didn't have the looks that he did, that he's not my type. Just putting that out there. He's not my type. But if people do think, you know, he's attractive, so therefore, and you put all these positive qualities to him, let's say he wasn't, would you feel differently about it? Probably. Probably. You wouldn't be, because yeah, we just live in that society. So Paul's back. Hi. I think I mentioned you and Beckham and Liz like several times in regards to like talking about the cases for tonight, where I'm like, oh, me, Paul, Beckham, and Liz, you know, and just talking about these cases. But yeah, Paul, I'm actually glad you're here now because I'm just talking about Luigi Mangione, if you can't tell by the chat. But again, outsider, I would definitely like to hear what the Liz, I know the Liz is awesome. Yeah, you're in Canada. I would love to kind of hear, as I meant James Watson, you too, you're in Canada as well, what your guys' opinions are from, again, another country looking in, but also if your media is talking about this, what is your media saying about it? I'm actually very curious if you guys do want to mention that. All right, let me go back in the chat to where I started talking about this. And I know I'm a bit behind, and see what you guys are saying. Auntie Mimi says, what about the new info in his journal? Anything been said yet? So, I mean, we've gotten some information about, you know, his quote unquote manifesto and his opinions, where, you know, he's using certain language to refer to, you know, health insurance companies and the CEOs. I think one of the quotes was like, as parasites or something like that. But, and Mimi, so that kind of brings me to my next point, that I hate to say this, but the second Brian Thompson, you know, is pronounced dead, United Healthcare has to make decisions. They have to put someone, you know, in charge of now taking over his shoes and being the new face of the company. So on the one hand, it's like, what did you accomplish? Because now there's somebody else in his position. But I've had that conversation with people who are, let me put this out, I'm not naming names. I've had conversations with people who are very against what he did and very for what he did. And again, I don't go to each and say, you're wrong, you're right, you're wrong. No, I'm just, well, tell me why you think that way. Even if I think, you know, whatever way I think, I want to know what, like, tell me what your, like, why is it that you think that way, whether you're for it or against it. I'm genuinely curious to hear. And because I think good dialogue can come from that, and it kind of can expand as to why so many others think that way as well. But yeah, one of the people that I talked to who is pro what he did, pro what Luigi Mangione did, had said at the very end of the day, in response to my, well, now somebody else is a CEO, and it was, he opened the door for health insurance companies to realize where people aren't going to stand for this. They're not going to stand for this. So that was an interesting point. Totally hear what they're saying. Beckham, I think Beckham mentioned this last week, if I recall, where like immediately all these big companies, you know, pictures of their employees and CEOs removed from sites immediately, like completely taken off so that they couldn't be identified. Because yeah, I've heard about other health insurance companies that have been, threatened in regards to their CEOs? Is it are there copycat killers that want to do what he did, or are there just people that just want to add to the momentum and add threats really with no form of or plan of a follow through? But at the end of the day, it has to be taken seriously. I want to make a note to myself on another point in this that I want to talk about, but I want to catch up on what you guys are saying too. Renee's saying, I hope the feds give the death penalty. Probably another potential assassin. Okay. Okay, you guys are still talking about drones with Beckham. Every time you call him Luigi and not Linguini, you make Beckham sad. I mean, at the end of the day, if I make Beckham sad, that makes me really happy. It makes me really happy. So I'll say Luigi as many times as I can. Mimi is saying, when I was on United Healthcare, they gave me permission for physical therapy, then refused to pay for the bill. I appealed and got denied twice. Yep, that sounds about right. Oh, Christ, Beckham. If this guy looked like Paul, the woman wouldn't be all thirsty thirsting after him. James, that's my second favorite comment of the night. Notice how all these guys keep journals. Sam, yes, there has been so much talk about his journal, like, and how it was like a spiral notebook or something like that. It just, when he was so into technology and whatnot, then why did he? Oh my God, so much talk about that. But yeah. Renee says, I have a friend that works for a health insurance company. They've beefed up security like crazy. Oh my gosh, absolutely. James Watson says, I'm glad I didn't run amok on society. I had no idea you had to write a manifesto. How embarrassed oh my God, James, Christ's sakes. Yeah, Sam Smith, what is up with that? Oh, yeah. The journal comment. Okay. I would believe James having a manifesto. Sam's the saying, it's too close to the circle of guilt in all the public's mind, which is also why they always find more ammo and guns at the Patsy's house. Oh, that's so mean. I am nothing but friendly and warm and generous to mini Paulcast. Oh, that's so sad. That is so sad. And for those of you who are like, what the heck are y'all talking about? No, so me being the wonderful friend I am, and Paul being from Canada and me being from Boston, I'm like, oh, let me get Paul's kid to be like, yeah, Bruins are awesome, just to piss his dad off. Do I show up with Bruins gifts for his son? Absolutely. Do I mail Bruins gifts for his son? Absolutely. Just to get a little dig at Paul. Oh, it makes me so happy. But to hear that is just so sad. What was it, the last time or the time before the last time I went out to visit? Oh my gosh, I got his kid to talk about Brad Marchand to the point where when I was leaving my trip, mini Paulcast and his friends were following, like, oh my God, they were just like, they were cheering, being like, Brad Marchand. It made me so happy because Paul was so mad. It made me so happy. That's like one of the highlights of my trip, was like that moment. So, mini Paulcast. All right. I'll bet Sam has oh my gosh, I would totally believe that, Capone. I would totally believe that. So one of the other points I wanted to make in regards to the Luigi Mangione case that's going on right now is, and I know people have different views on it, the amount of hate, like hate that the McDonald's employees in Altoona, Pennsylvania have been getting, the amount of threats that they have been getting. There's now bodyguards that have to be at that Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's because people are calling threatening. They are writing scathing, just horrible negative reviews on there. I mean, Google is working to get those taken off, but a lot of it is kind of making the comments of like rats in there. Oh, it's full of rats in the kitchen. Obviously, rats implying someone ratted out Luigi. But it's like this person, whether you agree with what Luigi did or not, that the McDonald's worker who called it in, like, did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. So if you're going to focus your energy, focus it elsewhere. Like, do something out. But it's just, that's not right, because what does that tell society? That, hey, if there's someone who committed a murder or a crime and the public is being asked for their help, now someone's not going to be, so willing to be like, I have that information, I can come forward, I can help, and I can be of service and be of help. They might not want to do that because look what's happening. Looks like it's horribly twisted. What was the other point I wanted to say? There's been people who have been calling, from what I've been, and I just heard this today on a podcast, a very reputable podcast, that people have started not only just like online GoFundMe like platforms to raise money for Luigi's legal services, but have called, the attorney's offices who will be representing him, pledging, or offering money to help pay for his legal fees. And it's just like, what the heck? Like, again, he can afford all this. Like, he comes from money. He can afford this. All this money that people are donating to, that part is just weird to me. That would be like people calling, like, the first name that comes to my mind is Alex Murdaugh, and being like, not only do I think he's innocent, I want to pledge my money to help him. No, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. Like, so that part is weird. It's when, like again, having conversations with people that are pro Luigi Mangione or against, I want to like have just low key conversations of like, why do you think this way and why do you think that way type of thing. The donating of the money thing, I'm like, that just doesn't, it really doesn't make sense because he has the money to pay for it. So I don't know. But I just talked a lot about that with you guys. So if there's, any other comments that you guys have about this case that you are comfortable sharing, any thoughts on it, by all means, please leave it in the chat. Obviously, as things unfolds each week with this, we'll definitely keep you guys up to date on it. I know like Beckham is really following this case. So I know he's only in the chat tonight. He wasn't able to be on camera tonight, but come the next few weeks, like, I know he's very well researched on this. So let's see. So Paul is saying my last message got erased, I think, on YouTube. Well, I didn't erase it, so it was definitely YouTube that did. So, all right, Paul is saying the way people are celebrating that guy is out of control. Don't get me wrong. I think corporate insurance people are just as much of a piece of shit as the next person. Capone is saying this guy is becoming the real Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Interesting. I didn't think about it like that. Capone, something to that. Beckham is saying, my senior project in college was analytical research on postal. Oh, okay. Beckham. Oh, God. We're talking about college for you, hon? That was way back in the day. An alarmingly high percentage of them are into Soy lattes. That's not a coincidence. Oh my God. For I didn't read that second line at first. I'm like, oh my God, what tidbit of knowledge is Sam Smith giving us? That's what I get for getting my hopes up with you, Sam Smith. You always just like, I always just leave disappointed. Oh man. All right, you guys. I have been going now for almost 2 hours. Any last minute comments? By all means, please leave them in the chat. If you are watching on replay, by all means, please leave any questions, comments, opinions, anything in the comments, and I will certainly respond to that. I'd love to hear, for those who were not able to be here tonight watching, and you do want to leave a comment, I would really like to hear what y'all are thinking on this. As a quick reminder, next week being Christmas week, for those who do celebrate, I am one of those. The Danny After Dark kind of live schedule will be a little all over the place. So we'll see. We'll see. When I can get to it, I will post a date and be like, here's when the next show is. But for right now, I don't know. I'm really trying to figure out my schedule for next week. It's just, yeah, holiday crazies. Yeah, it's really real. And then tomorrow, again, everybody tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, so 2 p.m. Eastern, go on over to the Once Upon a Crime podcast YouTube channel. There will be a holiday show with a bunch of content creators on it, and I was asked to be one of them. So I will be there for that, and I'm so excited and looking forward to it. So tune in for that tomorrow afternoon. If you can't catch it while it's live, watch it on replay. So, all right, let's just... okay, see what you guys are in the last couple comments, and then we'll call it a night. Beckham, what was the name of the female postal worker? Okay. Paul is saying we've seen people jeered and cheered for shooting at people they disagree with all in the same year. God bless America. Yeah, Paul, that's one of the things that we've talked about. And yeah, you laid it out very simply. And yeah, people can look at it and go, but no, there's no buts. Yeah, you're spot on. What the heck? Beckham, you're so creepy. Lavish? Oh my God. Ugh, weird. I'd have to find, okay, yeah. I was going to make a joke about you not going on camp today because you didn't want to put on. James Watson, why are you giving us all that image? Beckham, for Christ's sakes. Paul, you are so not. You were so full of shit. You're so full of it. Thank you, Chris James. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this episode of True Crime and Chill. I really enjoyed these conversations with you guys. I really like to hear and have the back and forth of what you guys are thinking about this, because we all have a voice in this. We all have an opinion about this in regards to a lot of these cases. And when we're into true crime, and we want to have people to talk about it with. And I'm just so thankful and grateful to have you all to talk about it with, because Lord knows, yeah, I'm sure a lot of my coworkers aren't. But it's just like something happens, I'm like, oh, that sounds like the Jeffrey Dahmer case. And it's like, but then they're like, oh yeah, that's Danielle. So I enjoy these conversations with you guys. I really do. So, all right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And remember, until next time, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.